So yeah, this is where she shows him the bangle, but like I said, Sana is over her shoulder asleep, so she never sees anything, any of this. Um, yeah, and this is where she tells him to, promise to keep her safe and get her on the train. And this is where they split up. Yeah, it's sort of anticlimactic. The like you would expect that after they come from the same place that she could fight. Like you saw her fight at the beginning of the episode, right? You saw her fight at the beginning of the episode. Do you think that she wouldn't? There would be a little bit of back and forth, but I guess it was very, very close quarters, right? Everyone was jammed in there next to each other, so maybe she didn't have any. She didn't have any room to maneuver.
But also, she was being chased, though, wasn't she?
Well, I mean, she was being confronted, right? That's why they split up. That's why he told. Well, that's why she told him to make sure that she gets on the train. So she went to go and confront her and kind of stall her, and put herself between them and Najma. So I think she thought that it could go down like this, that she could die, but like she was trying to sacrifice herself, I guess, or at least give them some time. Yeah, but yeah,
Yeah, I mean, she must have known that she was potentially going to her death.
Yeah.
I definitely didn't think it was going to happen so fast. It kind of caught me off
Yeah.
guard when I was like, oh, she's stabbed. Okay, I guess that was a very short exchange. Because she doesn't even Najma is so quick to jump to the conclusion, like, you betrayed us and where's the bank?
She did.
The only one who knows where it is, but
say
I'm
that she
kill you.
it's going to take her some time to get it, and then Najma was like, "Okay, you have a day," and then she also says, and she also tells her to meet them at a certain place. So I'm going to assume that Najma went to that place and she wasn't there. So you betrayed us. You turned your back on us. Is I guess a fair assessment of what happened from her perspective.
Yeah.
Yes, but going straight to stabbing, more
that probably didn't
someone.
make that kind of felt rushed.
I mean,
everything. I think that kind of felt rushed.
Everything with Najma is rushed because they haven't really thought her through very much. Like, if I wanted to be charitable, I would say that in her head, she didn't think maybe. I mean, like, what actually happened is that she wasn't running from them for 5 years. She met this guy. They fell in love slowly, and then at a certain point, she decided to stay. But like from her perspective, maybe she thought she was always running. Like she was trying to evade them, and then they just got caught up with her. Who knows? Who knows what was running through her head when she went to the place they were supposed to meet?
Yeah,
and then she wasn't there. She was probably fuming and coming up with all kinds of ideas about what happened over those 5 years. So,
but did she really die though? I mean, we've seen the other gentleman, in the previous episode, and Priya, you were saying, oh, he can't be dead, is he? Like, is this person really dead? I don't know. I mean,
all the dudes are dead except for because like at the end, like when Kamala goes back, it's only the women who are alive. So I think all the guys died in the last episode.
I think it's I don't know, because they made a point of her grandfather sharing with Aisha that her name means she who lives, right? And so that with him she finally gets a real life, quote unquote, or
there you
he
go.
is immortal, who knows?
She could still be alive.
It could be. I mean, it does look like she dies, at least in the scene, but who knows, right? But I think she could. I really like this scene because up to this point, it's always been the case that the clandestines could not access their.
So, So say that one more time. I think
you were on mute, Priya.
You're
There you go.
Oh, whoops.
Up until this time.
My bad. I don't know what happened. No, I was saying up until this time the clandestines couldn't access the newer energy without the bangle, right? They couldn't access their powers. And in this scene you actually see the bangle is now with Sana, but Aisha is able to access power because of the love that she has for her family, and she knows that she needs to save them. So it's kind of, again, it's like the love for the family is kind of, transcending all these rules of like cosmic powers because of the love that she has for her family. So I think it's interesting, and it kind of opens the door a little bit about the Noor dimension and the powers a little bit, because she does kind of unlock her powers somehow without moment, the bangle.
That's when the inscription is added to the bangle, so that the bangle is pliable. That she kind of put a kind of a spell or a prayer on it, basically, and the prayer and the prayer reverberated into the future, and her prayers were answered by her great granddaughter. So yeah.
Who she thinks is Sana, so she initially thinks it's her future daughter.
So that was cool. I guess this sort of breaks the time travel stuff in the MCU, but not really, because I guess it's a predestination sort of thing. She was always there. She was always the person who did it. So I guess this doesn't branch into a new timeline.
Does it though?
I saw a lot of question marks around a timeline paradox coming up in reviews of this episode and other places.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
it's more of a time loop though. It's a time loop thing. It's a time loop.
So it's a predestination. So
you don't branch out.
Yeah, it's like in the Harry Potter, I think the Deathly Hallows, like they do a very similar thing. Like Harry goes back in time and saves himself, but he has to go back. He has to save himself when he figures out that he went back in time, because that's what he did, because he always does it. So there's not yeah. Right. So
yeah. I mean, they did it in here, Prisoner of Azkaban. They just did it in the new season of the Umbrella Academy as well, where they kind of explained this time loop thing. So I guess that's the hot ticket right now in these kind of shows.
There's no branches. But there is a time loop. Actually, I think that's kind of what I read in terms in Endgame was that if there was a time loop, it's like a different lane than what it was when you're branching it out and changing the course of each of the timelines.
Yeah. It's also really cool here that she actually, she gets to see her dying, but she gets to see her great grandmother, which a lot of people don't get to do. I mean, I got to meet my great grandmother when I was a kid, but like that's not a common thing. So it's also, I mean, it's like I said, it's when she's dying, but it's an opportunity that not a lot of people get to have. Yeah,
this was definitely one of those tear-jerking moments that I was mentioning earlier. I was like completely like, because it's also what Kamala needed to hear, I think, in her, in her story, like you have everything you need kind of thing, which I think it was just a nice way for her to kind of hear that from Aisha, bring it all together back to Kamala, and just how intricate the partition and the story of her great grandparents is so central to her identity today. It's just so.
This is kind of like a reminder of the Spider-Man
I really like this scene.
Of like when Peter Parker finally matures into the character that we love. It's kind of like that type of flick of a switch. It's like she gets it. She's like, "Oh my gosh, now I can be Ms. Marvel." It's like I am Ms. Marvel now. It's that. Yeah, it's really really touching, and like you said, but it's kind of like the hero's journey where she's kind of finding herself, and then boom. She gets that word of wisdom, and then, yes, she always had it, but then it's like that word of wisdom comes out. It's just this is great, totally great.
Yeah. So yeah, she finds her grandmother here, and tries to get her through the crowd, but as I said earlier, it's pretty dense. So she uses her powers, and then we see the stars basically because the platforms that she's used to making gets broken.
Was that Sana though that was controlling the stars?
It wasn't Sana that was controlling the stars.
What was clear.
It was when she was knocked by someone, as often happens when she loses her concentration, it broke into pieces. So I think a couple things were happening here. So like it's the she put her hand out and the pieces were still kind of floating in the air. But earlier on when Aisha shows him the bangle, it's glowing in the exact same way. So so it catches his attention. So he comes towards her as well. So I think that's what is supposed to be happening there. But I don't know, maybe because
it's only because the way that they were doing it, because she has the bangle at this point
too, right? Because look, as she's waving her hand.
Correct.
Yeah, she has the bangle as well. So as she's waving her hand, it is lighting up more. So maybe it's both. It's a combination of both of them.
Yeah.
Maybe because Kamala did look slightly surprised that
that's true.
Was happening. That's the only reason. And then Sana also did say that she is Jinn, so she knows it. So that was the only reason that made me think maybe she does have these powers too.
Aisha had it, so I mean, if Aisha had it, then Sana's gonna have to have it. And then again, like what you said, Priya, is just like Sana did mention to Kamala that I have that.
Yeah.
Don't know if Kamala's mother have it or not. You know,
I would assume she does, unless it skipped a generation for whatever reason. Yeah.
Maybe if she puts on.
Although.
But then, I think what Colin you were saying earlier, like the closing of the hero journey, because Kamala she even says like it was me. I think it finally kind of dawns on her that it was her all along, and it's just stepping out of that shadow or limelight of being just a fangirl and now being, it was me kind of long. So I think it's a nice ending to that little segment of
this episode where
the story.
It's not it's basically not done very well. It's like they rushed this entire section. I mean, this cut to Muneeba is funny because this whole conversation about tracking, putting a microchip inside of Magnum, and she's like, Magnum's a doll, Kamala's a girl. But she's like, if it was legal, I would do it. And then we get the terrible cousin.
The terrible cousin didn't really talk though, Nathan. You know, so no. Is it? Oh, is the terrible cousin did talk? That was not her brother. Sorry.
He's the one who tells her about the Find My Phone thing.
Like, it's so flat, no affect. Like, this is not how people talk, and unless I don't know.
You aren't alone, because I rewatched the episode with my husband and he said the same thing. He's like, who is this guy? Where did they find him from? And I'm like,
unless in my headcanon, maybe he's like on the autism spectrum. That's why he's speaking like this, and yet with no emotion or whatever in his line delivery. Maybe that's why. In that case, then fine. That's how he. Whatever. It's just terrible. Like, it's. Everyone else is actually acting and taking me into the scene, and it takes me out of the scene because it sounds like they brought someone off the street to say these lines. But yes, it is a good point that he comes up with here, and it does help. It does help her, and it helps. So I don't want to harp on this too much, but like she's a spectacular actress. I wonder how. Yeah. And it's shown even more how great an actress she is, because this is what he's giving her, in this scene. And even though he's giving her nothing, she's able to be very funny and say, "Oh, you mean like spyware for parents?" And it pulls me back into the scene because of her. That's how good she is, basically. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, but the headline, we don't want the headline to be Nathan hates Kamala's cousins. in our tagline, it's like Nathan hates Kamala's cousins, and then it's like it goes back to kind of what I talked about earlier, actually, with my family, about how sometimes we love representation, we love the fact that these stories are being presented, but it doesn't mean that we can't be critical or have some reservations or have some criticisms about the material, because we are fans and we want the best product out there. But at the same time, it's important to make sure that we do acknowledge the representation, but we do know that there are flaws in it. It's not beyond perfection. It's like perfection, and we have to put up on a pedestal or anything like that. It's just, So this example with the cousins, this is the example with, what was the other examples? But there's several examples that the villains, there are some things that we can say, okay, they can do a better job on at least. Mm-hmm. Some areas are great.
I think the first woman dies. We saw that she basically turns into crystal. And she's, for some reason, she thinks that she can it won't kill her, but like that seems like a that looks like a pretty definitive death. The skin turned into crystal, and then you saw the the skeleton also.
The skeleton. It's literally like Indiana Jones.
Exactly.
Right.
It went there. It's interesting.
It's like But I also didn't realize there was only
two of them left.
I was kind of
got killed
surprised.
in the previous episode. I guess the Red Dagger killed them all.
Probably.
I did see him
shoot
a guy in the back, and that's what I was talking about in the previous episode. Like, how could they die so easily by being stabbed in the back? But I guess they're very vulnerable. They're not immortal. They just have super strength and they're long lived, but their skin still can be pierced. So
I think with the veil stuff, I mean this was super abrupt and rushed, and like we said, the villains of the whole series were probably the weakest part of it. But I do think there's questions obviously about the veil. They obviously introduced this concept with a reason, I suppose, but it's also, maybe we'll see it again, but the fact that it didn't work, the veil didn't work, and I don't know. I mean, was it only so that Kamran could get worse? Because he's obviously going to be continuing. I don't know. It just seemed like a very abrupt, rushed scene where it's like, oh, the veil's open, but now the villains are going to die, and we don't know anything about the veil and why it didn't work, and why Najma thought she could.
Yeah, I mean,
and how she did stop it, to be honest.
But I feel like the person who went into it previously basically sacrificed themselves too. So I don't know how she closed it. This is not done well. I mean, I could try to like bend myself into like a pretzel and try to explain this. It's just not done well. Hopefully, it's not something that's dropped. I will say earlier on in the season, they did mention that the guy or whoever they were talking to said that they needed 2 of the bangles and they only had 1, which is maybe why the portal wasn't completely open or the veil wasn't completely open. So maybe that is the other shoe to drop. Maybe that's what it's going to be in the Marvels movie or whatever. We get more an understanding of like an opening up to that universe. But this specific scene, I'm not going to put the energy in trying to make this scene make sense.
Yeah,
because it doesn't.
I think unfortunately they're just going to drop this. I think that given the fact that the villains, the clandestines as a villain was very weak. I think that the whole veil thing, I think they're just going to close this chapter, and basically, like you said, Priya, it's pretty much an origin story. It's kind of like the origin story, so that we can get Kamala to a bigger universe that's out there. You know, the universe that she's fangirling about. I mean, to think about it, I mean, if you look at a parallel Spider-Man, the first Spider-Man movie, I mean, was there any resolution to the villains in that? No. I mean, there was really no resolution, and they introduced the character, you know, in one of the post-credit scenes. They didn't even use them. They did not use them. So it's like probably just drop them.
Adrian Toomes does go to jail. That's sort of a resolution.
Yeah, but I'm talking about Scorpion. I'm talking about like they didn't use Scorpion. Yeah. So they have done that in the past where they're just going to drop it and probably hopefully no one will notice, and then they're probably going to maybe get back to it. I don't know. But I think that the Marvels is set up in that it's not that it's going to be more ensemble and it's going to be more cosmic rather than you know. Yeah, I think so.
But the veil is another dimension, so you can it's very easily tied into the cosmic stuff. I don't think they can drop it like I mean, the Scorpion is like a C-level Spider-Man villain. This is like the core for where her power comes from. I think that they probably can have more stories about it. And I think the other bangle is how they can tell more stories about it.
Okay.
I think that was what I was going to ask. Is so obviously they did set up that storyline that there's two bangles. That was a very purposeful of information. Do we have any theories of who's this guy who told them that there's two bangles?
I don't know. Maybe it was a Kree person. Maybe it was someone from the Ten Rings, because that's where they found it in the Ten Rings, like tomb.
Right. I was thinking it would be cool if it's like a Mandarin version, you know, that comes in and he's telling them about them. But I don't know. I mean, I think they could tie in the veil further. I just hope if they do a better job than what they did today.
Like in these shows, I've gotten better at not going down a rabbit hole. Like with the first couple shows, everyone was. I was never on the Mephisto train, but like in the first show, I did go down rabbit holes. But like when Monica says something about like I have a friend, and it was like we spun into like, oh, who could it be? Could it be Reed Richards? Like it's a guy. It's a guy who told him about the bangle. That. And we know that there's another bangle. I think that's what they meant to give you. That's the information that they meant to give you, that there's another bangle, not that the guy himself. Because if I get into that, we're gonna go down a rabbit hole, I think. So yeah.
Fair enough. I definitely read way too much about Mephisto than I would like to admit. So
yeah, this is.
Oh, this was fantastic. I was so happy.
She is accepting of her. She realizes who she is. She isn't like scolding her. And I feel like they also they spent so much money on this episode, and also they want to spend a bunch of money on a bunch of special effects in the next episode. But you just see her mother's reaction to her using her powers, but you don't actually see her using her powers in a second. And if you don't, if you don't pay attention to the scene, you don't realize that's what's happening until you like see her just looking up at her doing what she does, the platform thing.
Yeah, this is.
I love how she's still who's the guy.
Yeah, she definitely wants to know who the boy is, and the boy slips away. Yeah.
Potential boyfriend number 3.
Oh, who's that?
Yeah. Yes. Before she even asked her about the power, she says, who is that? Yeah.
And her tone totally changes too, just for those 3 words. So she's so good in this scene.
I don't know. She's like, I think Kamala is probably my favorite in the episode in the show, but like her mother is probably my second favorite
Oh yeah, she's great.
She's funny. She's obviously loves her daughter very very much, and we get more scenes with that later on as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope also that John kind of has. I know that John, our colleague, he was very. He told us that he was in our chat that he didn't like the portrayal of Kamala's parents. I hope that he kind of has a change of heart after seeing kind of like this progression, especially toward this part of it where her mom is becoming much more accepting and just of who she is as a superhero. So it's really great. It is really great. It's kind of a good payoff from the growth of where she was at the beginning, how closed in terms of protection. And we all understand, her reasons behind it, but seeing this, initially I thought, oh, this is so rushed, but then I'm like, wait, hold on, this is coming from like previous episodes, and
I think they laid the groundwork very well, not only in previous episodes, but also in like there's going to be a scene later on. This is always who her mother has been. She's always been a little bit of a rebel. Yeah. She actually even explains herself later on as well, that she was holding on because as much fun as she had as a kid, like chasing Bon Jovi, like Kamala is like the most important thing to her, so she was trying to hold on to her. So all that stuff is written very well. All that stuff is great. Yeah. Like I said, the majority of this episode is great except for the villain stuff. Like when the villains are gone, then it gets back into good stuff again. So.
Yeah. It's true. But I like what Colin said about the fact, like, you see her mom in the first episode, and that she is like more strict and not letting her avenge her son. Then you see kind of the growth that even Muneeba has had throughout the show and the connections she has. So this episode especially is so much about mothers and daughters, and it really shows the episode in the scene that follows this with the three of them. But you can see how much pride and kind of just Muneeba is just glowing, right? When she because she's finally connected with her daughter and realizes what's been going on with her. And she's so like just vulnerable and sentimental. It's great. And then she also finally realizes that her mom was telling her the truth all this time. Right?
It's just like in a matter of fact way. I've been telling you for years, we're magic. This is, and then like I said, when she goes to talk to Kareem, the Red Dagger, this is where you just get her reaction shots of her looking up and up and up, and her smiling and amazed by her. Yeah. Yeah. So good. I like this as well, just because, again, the show has been so much about leading up to Kamala discovering herself and becoming Miss Marvel, and I think they've done a good job in this scene, particularly with finally we're seeing people in full costume. So we better see her in full costume. Not only are we going to see her in full costume, obviously Muneeba is going to sew it, because they already had put like she sews things, right? They showed in previous episodes that she sews things, right? She's going to sew her suit for her. Taking these elements. Yeah.
That would be
not the Superman.
That would be so
not
good.
the Superman.
Yeah. Yes. I guess the original one. Yeah, his mother made his suit. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. This exchange between them is cute, and he says that he's Sarah won. It's in U.S. government. The scarf is given to her by him. The blue jacket, I think, or the not jacket, the blue, I forget what the name of the vest is given to her by the mentor who died, and that's going to be basically the basis for the entire suit that I guess her mother's going to put together, and then her mother finds her necklace, which is basically in the shape of the lightning bolt. Yeah.
That's so cool. Yes.
Yeah.
The rebel scene.
Oh, that's cool.
This is nice. This is great. This is totally great.
And I feel like this happens in like every family where like you're like, look at the old photos of your parents and just look how ridiculous and embarrassing you know they look to you. So it was very nice. It was such a heart.
And then she Bruce Springfield. It's funny that it's like this. Like I said, she's so awesome. Like, don't put these lies into my daughter's head. It wasn't him. It was Bon Jovi. Her comic timing is awesome. So yeah.
I hope a lot of these actors get roles, you know, in other projects, you know, in the future, you know. Just like, you know, you've seen some you know, older actors that play like TV moms or like show, or like, you know, TV moms, TV dads, you know, mentors or something like that. I hope they really get work out of this, you know. Hopefully, I really do.
I think a lot of these actors are actually like very well known, very well known in like Bollywood and Pakistani media. So like they will definitely get work after this. But I see what you're saying. I hope they get more work in the West because you can see how good they are.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah, this is her basically explaining herself, right? She wasn't ready to let her go. So that, what did she say before? Yeah, and recently I've been holding on really tight because I wasn't ready to let you go. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think she's relieved. Like, she's not panicked by the fact that she's out of crime fighting, because this is kind of like who she was as well. Like, she wants to give her independence, which is why I think she's definitely going to make her suit.
She sees that she's also kind of, you know, a rebel in that sense.
Yeah, and in the reconciliation with her mother as well.
This was another tear. Yeah, this was definitely one of those tear-jerking scenes.
Oh, so good, so good.
I know it's such a good ending to the story in Karachi, because this was like the abrupt, like, okay, I guess we're back in Jersey now, because that's really when it shifted back. And you know, and we saw that Kamran, that, you know, Najma's sacrifice, whether intentional or not, gave powers to Kamran when she whispered his name, and now, just like Kamala, he has, you know, Noor energy power, but he doesn't need the bangle.
This is a nice interaction too.
So we'll see what happens.
This was good too.
Throats in some ways, and then they're like they like kind of like bond. You know, it's nice. Yeah. It's nice that they. It's awkward.
It's awkward at first, but when they come to an understanding where we realize that he wasn't actually trying to mispronounce his name or like call him by the wrong name over and over again. Which is actually a reverse of probably what he had to live through his entire life, being around white people. Like, so that's also funny.
Bruno, you know, in some instances, you know, he got hurt, and you know, Kamala's not talking to him. You know, now he got his name getting messed up. You know,
I think Kamala's talking to him. I mean, he would like her to talk to him a little bit more, like in more of a romantic fashion. But I think they're still friends. I think that's that. But he did get hurt, and now in his grandmother's bodega also gets blown up.
Cute.
So yeah, he's not like.
Yeah. I guess like the finale, they're just gonna make damage control the bad guy.
They really they didn't need any villain, and they just basically had two villains that done poorly. If they should have just focused on one or the other. If they're gonna have to have a villain. Damage control as the racist government agency that's harassing their community was enough of a villain, I think. You could have just did that, but yeah. Anyway, but yeah, this is I don't know. Hopefully they have insurance. It's costing him this friendship with Kamala is costing him a lot.
That's what I'm saying.
So like, because this is ridiculous. Oh,
maybe he should really think about going to Caltech. You know, it's like cut it off. You know, just like start fresh. You know, maybe you know.
Yeah. It will. I mean, they will have to at least address that in the next episode, and then also Kamala has to face Nakia because.
Yeah, and I'm sort of missing Yusuf.
Seen any of that?
He's fun.
Go down.
Yusuf and Amir, but mostly Yusuf. I want to see her father again in the next episode. He's fun. I mean, I understand the focus of these last couple episodes are definitely the matriarchal line of the show and her tracing her roots through her grandmother and her great grandmother, but her dad's fun. So yeah.
Yeah. So do you think that Carol Danvers is going to show up during the episode, or is it going to be post credits?
I don't think she's going to show up. I think it might be Monica.
Yeah, I think it might be Monica.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel more likely Monica also.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know.
It's possible that it's Carol because Carol would be the bridge between Monica and Kamala. Like Monica would mean nothing to Kamala. Although the random Kree that showed up at the end of WandaVision doesn't necessarily mean anything to Monica, except for the fact that she's a Kree. So sorry, not a Kree. Skrull. The random Skrull that showed up.
Right.
So it could be Monica. Or I mean, yeah. It's this would be the first time. Sorry. Good.
No. It could be just. I was just remembering that Iman Vellani, when she said she got the role, she met Brie Larson on FaceTime and they were doing all these video chats, right? So maybe. Yeah. If they were doing video chats, would it be right when she got casted or when they would be shooting for the Marvels, right? So maybe, I don't know. Maybe they would show up with Carol Danvers.
Yeah. So this
it could be it also could be the first scene that, when Brie Larson was going back to, because I subscribed to her YouTube channel, that when she was going back to shooting the Marvels, that probably would have been the first scene, is the post credits, of this. And so it could be the case where it's a post credit scene, more likely.
Because Monica and Carol haven't met yet, technically.
No.
That's true.
So. I mean, they haven't met as Monica as an adult. Yeah.
As Photon, they haven't met.
Yeah, right. I think they're definitely keeping that for the movie because they're going to be some words probably between the two of them. So yeah. That I'm definitely looking forward to that. But yeah, this ending was also great. I mean, you got more scenes of Karachi, and I watched this earlier today with my son, and he was just jamming out to this music at the end.
So good.
Like, it's very good. We actually found it on Apple Music, so you get to listen to it again. It's very
cool.
Good. Yeah.
I shazammed it too because I'm like, this is a really catchy song.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, we've been talking for more than an hour. Do you, anything else, you guys? Do we miss anything?
I think the only thing I would say is, now that they gave Kamran powers, I want to see how much they're going to lean into that, because he is kind of he's an opposing force to Kamala in the comics, in that he kind of believes that the world should only be for Inhumans, and I know they haven't gone down the Inhuman lens in this thing. Now he's also going to find out that his mom
died. Died doing it. So yeah, I think they're going to try to make him sort of into a villain, or instead of a love interest, he's going to be a villain. And it's not really clear if he has control 100% of those powers, or if part of his mother's spirit is kind of controlling him as well. So that could also be a thing in the next episode. So, but I think even if she is completely dead, he's going to feel a certain way about her being dead.
Correct.
So, yeah. So
he wasn't the one that was in Civil War Part 2 from the comics. Cameron, it wasn't him, right? It was another human.
You mean the one who could sense the future? Like
yeah. So it's different. Okay,
yeah,
sorry.
It was different power. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. All right, guys. If there's nothing else, that is what we think. But we want to hear what you guys think. So comment down below, like and subscribe for more content like this, and we will see you next week. All right, guys. Bye. Thanks.